Good Monday morning of the fourth week in Ordinary Time. And it's at the end of the month of January going into February. So I'm a week or two ahead, as you know, okay? So actually, it's a freezing cold morning here. Today is the 21st of January, actually, to tell you the truth. It's Friday. I hope it's the 21st, or I'm really confused. Anything's possible. Anyway, I just got back from Mass, and I'm sitting here. Lily's snoozing on the couch, so I guess it's safe. She won't be barking up a storm. Anyway, the readings today are interesting. The book of Samuel, the portraiture of King David. It's a marvelous portrait of him. He's as human as you can get, as flawed as you can get. But on the other hand, he's a model of redemption. I'll show it to you. He's not a miracle worker. Christ does that. Christ heals. That's the ultimate form of redemption, healing of the soul as well as the body. David doesn't have that kind of power. He's not a Christ redeemer, okay? But he is a redeemer. One of my students in class asked me a question yesterday, and in fact, I used it in my homily this morning at Mass at St. Mark's. And he asked me, can you redeem another person? It's a great question, because we were contrasting in class human redemption versus or complementary with divine redemption. What's the difference? How are they complementary or not, et cetera, et cetera. And it was in the course of a discussion, and I thought of the King David, okay? The way he deals with Saul, his kingly predecessor, who when he gets a chance to kill him, he doesn't. Saul is out to get him. And in the ancient world, you either get or get gotten. And David has a chance to kill him, and he doesn't. He honors the office of the king. You remember the story? Saul has to go potty, so he goes into a cave. Well, guess who's in the cave? Good old David and the boys. He got a chance to clip him. I mean, he could just whack him, okay? And he doesn't. In fact, he cuts off a piece of his tunic. And what he does by that, he appeals, as it were. He regrets even doing that he did anything that could offend the king, even though at this point he has a right to kill the king Saul. Saul's out to get him, see? Not to murder him, not to kill him, see? And what he does is he appeals to Saul. He honors Saul. And in so doing it, he draws out of Saul what is still good in Saul. Where he could be vindictive and whack him, he doesn't. Instead, he loves Saul better than Saul, in a sense, loves himself. And in so doing, he brings about in Saul what is best in him. You see? He's not vindictive, even though by ancient rules he could have been. But he isn't. His compassionate love and respect garners out of Saul's own self-respect. Saul comes to himself because of the love and the redemptive mercy that David shows him. David has mercy on him. He could kill him. He says, absolutely whack him. It's right there. And he doesn't. And in so not doing it, and so honoring Saul, he actually not only redeems him in this life, because he could have killed him, he redeems Saul from himself and to himself. He gives Saul back to himself in his best way, and Saul acknowledges that by acknowledging the goodness of David. David heals through forgiveness. He heals the breach, but he most of all gives back the broken soul of Saul, Saul's jealousy and all the rest, you see. And that's what goes on in these readings. Now it's not Saul, it's Absalom today. David's own son turns against him. Absalom tries to kill him. These guys played rough. Oof, holy moly, Andy. You could see the suffering of Saul because his own son is trying to kill him. There's an army going against him. And in the story, of course, you learn in today's reading and tomorrow's, David is accosted by the heirs to Saul. He's taken a shellacking, but he never retaliates. In today's reading, okay, from chapter 15, there's a guy named Shimei. He keeps coming along and cursing the hell out of David, okay? He says, away, away, you murderous and wicked man. And he's cursing David. The Lord has requited you for all the bloodshed in the family of Saul, in whose stead you became king. And the Lord has given over the kingdom to your son, Absalom. You're rubbing it in. And now you suffer ruin because of you are a murderer. Now, one of David's bearers, or one of his people, says, why should this dead dog curse my Lord and King? Let me go in there and clip him. Let me go lop off his head. But watch what David responds to. This is the genius of David. Watch what he says. What business is it of mine or yours, son of Zeruiah, that he curses? Suppose the Lord told him to curse David. Who then will dare to say, why are you doing this? Then the king said to Abishai and to his servants, if my own son, who came forth from my loins, is seeking my life, how much more might this Benjaminite do so? Let him alone. Let him curse, for the Lord has told him to. Perhaps the Lord will look upon my affliction and make it up to me with benefits for the curses he's uttering on me this day. So David and his men continued on the road, while Shimei kept abreast of them on the hillside, all the while cursing and throwing stones and dirt at them as he went. See, David has every right to retaliate. He doesn't. And even in this sense, he doesn't heal this man, but he doesn't descend into vindictiveness. And you'll see tomorrow's reading on Tuesday. Absalom dies by accident. Remember, he's on a mule. His hair gets caught in the trees, okay, and he's hung. And when he's hanging there, I think it's Joab. I forgot who it is. I think it's Joab, isn't it? He goes there and sticks a lance in him, okay? He stabs him. He kills him, one of David's men. He goes there and puts him away, as he should have, okay? By the rules of the game. Who is it now? I forgot. I'm getting ahead of myself, okay? Whatever. But the kicker is that David will grieve over Absalom, grieve deeply over him, even though he had become his enemy. David never retaliates. He heals through compassionate love. He heals. He seeks to heal, but he never retaliates. He's a model of redemptive love, completely transformed and radicalized in Christ himself. Christ does not curse from the cross. He doesn't curse the Jews that killed him, nor the Romans. See? He heals. Christ is a healer. Christ heals. He heals through the body and the soul. In every miracle that Christ performs, or any time he drives out demons, it's always to bring wholeness and well-being. I think it's tomorrow where they're reading in the gospel. I'm not sure of this now. I'm running ahead because I'm more interested in David. It's the demoniac, okay? Guy is possessed by demons, blah, 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 and Christ drives them out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But at the very end, he said, look, at Jesus would not permit him, as he went, let me just read it to you. As he was getting into the boat, the man who had been possessed pleaded to remain with him. Then listen what Jesus says to him. But Jesus would not permit him, but told him instead, go home to your family and to announce to them all that the Lord in his pity has done for you. He sends them home. See? He brings them back to what is good and healthy. You see? Redemption is not ethereal. It's real. It makes whole in the life of people. Makes whole. Whether it's human redemption or divine redemption, it always makes whole what is fractured, what is damaged, what is demonic means always ripped apart in inner violence. You see, it's never whole. It's the opposite of wholeness, and that's what you have here. Christ always redeems to make whole. Go back to your family. You see. Go back to what is good and healthy and normal. And then David does it in his own way, much more limited, but he still models it. He models redemption.